So in today's video, I'm going to go through some of the changes I'm making to the Aquarium controller. This is being done because I've decided to do away with the DS18B20s connected to the Raspberry Pi and have them solely connected to ESP32 modules. Here you can see I'm now testing a backup heater in the display tank being controlled by an ESP32. Using MQTT to send the data to the. So I've added the Raspberry Pi into this case, which I'm happy with, and I can still add things to the Pi if I wanted later on. So this is a handy solution for me. And this is the ESP32 being tested at the moment on the heater that you've seen in the tank already. So previously you've seen me demonstrating these two flows. Now this one worked, and it did show me a few issues with every time I deployed it, it would send false data readings through which affected the graphs. And then this one here, this one again I did like. Now to limit the data coming through, if I go into this node here, on the message state here, we just needed to put these 3 lines of code into it. And this JavaScript, basically, if the message payload is greater than or equal to 10, double end, so this is another check, and message payload is less than or equal to 40, return the message payload. So only if it was between these two figures would it send out the message. So that was one solution that I could use, but it did still cause another issue for me. Is that's great, you're limiting the data coming through. So I then had to then create another text node that basically showed what the actual thing coming through was. So that would then show me that there was a fault with that sensor. So I've now decided to stick with this type of setup now, which is at the ESP32 sending out these two messages or 2 topics. And these 2 topics create the graphs we see, and then here is the status, and this just tells me is the heater on or off. So here you can see heater is off and the current temperature 25 degrees. And in the node you can see this is what I'm seeing now. So I've got my gauge, I've got the status here, and the graph for the last 12 hours. And I think this is a good way to go with it myself. Also, you'll remember I created the heartbeat. So here you can see I've got 2 heartbeats. Now the Raspberry Pi is blinking every second, and the ATO heartbeat, which is a new mode I'm testing at the moment, which is going to control my auto top off, that blinks, I think it is at the moment, every minute. So that's just a visual aid for me to see it. And they are controlled. So this here controls the Pi heartbeat, and here is the flow for the auto top off control. So I've got 4 groups basically, and it's receiving 4 topics from the ESP32. One is the container check, one is the sun check, this one here is the ATO refill, so it's filling up the sun, and this one is the ATO heartbeat. So here you can see I've got the ATO container, which is green, which tells me it's got water in it, and the sump level at the moment is low. Now the refill at the moment, the pump is not running because it has to wait until the ESP32 has done a check, and it has to check the conditions as what we want, which is this condition, but it's on a timer and it has to wait till that time has elapsed. Once it's elapsed, it will then turn on the pump, and in my case it's a Tunzi pump, and that will run for 10 seconds and then turn off. So I'll just take a quick look at how I created these. So you could use, there is actual LED dashboard node, but I've had issues with that, so I've gone down a slightly different route and I'm using the text node. But in the text node, if I go into here now, we have a bit of JavaScript. Now I will make this JavaScript available, but here you can see I've set the font colors and there's a bit of a class, and this basically creates the little round dot. The important bit is this function node, and in this function node on the on message, all we've got is message.color equals message payload, and if it equals 1, go green. If it's 0, be red and return the message. And that then sends the information to this, which turns them on and off. And this I find a lot easier and nicer to work with than the other node that I have used in the past, but for some reason at the moment I'm having issues with it. So a lot of the codes I'm using and possibly the flows will appear in my Github page, which can be seen here. I will link it again in the videos which I've done in the past, and here you can see the details of what's going on with the controller as I go along, and then a lot of the codes are here. So in the ESP32 here you can see some of the information about the node in the README, and then you can see I've got the ESP32 sketch, and this is available for you to work with. Say if people want, I can go into a bit more detail on how this works, but it's here. Hopefully it can help you with what you might want to do. Say you may have better ways of doing it, and if you do, please let me know. Leave a comment.